Hello, dear listeners of the Mad Scientist Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cogswell, here with my co-host, Marie Mayhew. Marie, how's it going?
What is up? What's the story?
Noth-
3-day weekend.
3-day
people.
weekend. Oh, it could not have
Yay.
come. It could not have come at a better time for me.
No, thank God, right?
Oh my goodness.
I was going to take it even if it wasn't a 3-day weekend.
I was just gonna stay home from work.
F it! I'm sleeping in.
Oh
Don't
my
care
goodness.
anymore.
Oh my goodness.
So now, what did you do today? You had big plans.
I went to the Minnesota State Fair.
Holy smokes!
I ate a lot of fried foods. I had fried corn and regular corn on the cob that was grilled.
Oh my God!
I had.
That sounds like heaven.
It was really good. I had maple nitro brewed coffee, which is pretty tasty. I had a fried apple pie
Oh my God!
with cinnamon ice cream, which was amazing. And then, of course, the best thing every single year, Sweet Martha's cookies. Marie, if I tell you, you get, those those shaved ice cones?
Yeah.
Okay, you get one of those, and they they fill it with cookies, and then they pile the top up with cookies like double the size of the cone.
Oh my God!
It's insanity.
So you're just eating a giant cone full of cookies?
Yeah, it's great. It's the best thing ever. I had something else that was really good too, but I can't. Oh, a corn dog, of course. I always get a corn dog.
And you're like 17 corn dogs, but whatever, that's cool.
Wonderful.
I'm like, were there any
time.
vegetables? Did you have any
Katie
like,
got
what?
okay. Katie did get a pickle dipped in. It's a Kool-Aid pickle. Not impressed. Not impressed this year with it.
A Kool-Aid pickle?
It was okay. There was
Like, what is it? It's dipped in actual Kool-Aid?
it's a pickle. It's like not a dill. It's not a dill pickle. Katie was upset that it wasn't dill. It was some other kind of pickle that was just, I guess, left to sit in Kool-Aid as well. It's okay. It's just okay.
I can't understand how that wouldn't be a culinary impresario of flavor and taste.
Other places have it, and supposedly it's very good. It wasn't great here. Anyways, what'd you do this weekend, Marie?
So as you do on the weekends, we went to Target.
Nice.
Put down a Benjamin at Target,
Nice.
walked out, don't remember the entire experience. Like, you want to talk conspiracy theories? Like, I'm sure that there's like some Target conspiracy theories out there. Because you walk in and you're like, I need one thing, and it's this. It's detergent. And I know exactly where it is, and I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm in and out, people. And then like 3.5 hours later, you're like dehydrated. You wake up, you're in the seat of your car. There's all these Target bags around you, and you're like, what?
Right, and Chip and Joanna Gaines are laughing at you somewhere.
Exactly.
Good times.
So.
All right, this episode, this is a bonus episode, dear listeners.
Bonus!
We also have a full episode coming out here on economic collapse, which is going to be a big series on economics and how economies collapse and why you should be hoarding gold in your basement. It's going to be great. We're also going to start selling gold and supplements here.
Yeah,
but
this is all just a big ploy for us to start selling.
Really, like all
to
good
merch up and sell.
like all good internet radio shows, this is just a ploy to get you to buy things from us. Anyways,
pretty much.
This episode we are going to discuss Alex Jones. And
now, who is that again?
Okay.
Why does he sound familiar?
So for those that don't know, Alex Jones, full name Alexander Emmerich Jones, is the host of InfoWars, The Alex Jones Show, a bunch of other kind of smaller shows like that, and the CEO and owner of InfoWars, News Wars, and Prison Planet.
Planet!
He's been a conspiracy theorist since the late 80s, early 90s.
Before being a conspiracy theorist was cool.
Basically, yeah. So he really started in I don't want to, late 80s is way too late, actually. I'm thinking of the person that came before him, Bill Cooper.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So Alex Jones really kind of not stole the thunder per se, but basically took the Bill Cooper model, and some people would say used it in a bad faith way to turn it into a way for him to sell supplements and gold and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he really began his career in 1995, 1996. Originally, he had a call-in format public access TV show in Austin, and then became a radio host with the show The Final Edition on KJFK 98.9 FM in Austin, Texas. At that point, he became actually pretty good friends, or a regular guest on his show was Ron Paul, who we're going to talk about in our next episode on economic collapse, because he's a bit of a nutcase, but it's fine. And it is really at the beginning of his career started off with attacks on the government about the Oklahoma City bombings.
Ah, yes.
He believed that the Oklahoma City bombings were a false flag, that and this is really his common motif throughout his career, is big government events, or big events that affect the country in interest, or in important ways, such as terrorist attacks, such as mass casualty events like the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting is probably the one that he's the best known for today, but also for other larger conspiracy theories. He has been consistent about the idea that those are false flag events being put out by the New World Order or some other kind of shadow government that is trying to destroy the American people.
Or just white dudes, but whatever.
Basically,
cool.
just white dudes. So he is also well known for trying to build a new Branch Davidian church after the siege at Waco, Texas.
Wow,
I
did not know that about him.
Yeah, he was told not to do it by his people at the radio station, and so after that, he decided he would.
Don't they have vision? Have they no vision?
I guess not. So they then, and so he started making public appearances and building a name for himself by going to these big public events and things, and kind of making a spectacle of himself. So he went to a George W. Bush rally in Texas, and he started screaming about how the Federal Reserve and the Council on Foreign Relations needed to be abolished. And, just like made an ass of himself. He was removed, and then, so at that point now, this is like around 2000, he was removed from the radio. His station was like, you gotta stop. Right? So this is a quote from Alex Jones. Quote, "It was purely political, and it came down from on high. I was told 11 weeks ago to lay off Bill Clinton, to lay off all these politicians, to not talk about rebuilding the church, to stop bashing the Marines, A to Z." End quote. So, a normal person. So that was when he really started to broadcast the show by internet connection and have it be an online platform.
Yes.
Okay. His show
to
was
reach out to an entirely different audience as well.
Exactly. Now,
yes.
he became a public figure after his show started to be syndicated. And specifically with the beginnings and kind of the fizzle out of the Y2K conspiracy theories that he was a tremendous part of. Okay. Now, this is really funny because it has been purged from his Wikipedia page. It just does not talk about it at all.
Really?
Which is great. Yeah. So, for listeners that aren't aware of what the Y2K conspiracy was, it was a really stupid conspiracy theory.
It was, unless you were sitting through it and living through it, and you had to sit in on all these. I remember I had to sit in on all these work seminar things on Y2K and what happens what happens for data loss and all this other stuff. It was like there was a lot of corporate concern and hype around it too.
Yeah, so the issue basically was when we first created computers for business, basically in the 80s, when the computer started to be, because we had computers for quite some time before that, but when we started to put computers into businesses and use them, we decided that the world would never go past the year 1999.
Nope.
And so we basically programmed in our dates for all of our data storage, all of our programs, whatever, as only having 2 digits. So you would say December 5th, 1998. And it would come out as 12.5.98 or 5.12.98, however it was laid out in the string of data.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, businesses thought, or people seemed to think, that because we had written and told the computers that the dates would not continue, that the world would cease to exist in some
They
way.
would all crash.
Yeah,
right?
okay, yeah.
Everything that was built on infrastructure from these things would just crash. Because
Yeah.
it wouldn't know how to read 00. It couldn't compute the turning into the new year, and everything would be lost, and there'd be chaos in the streets.
Yeah, so it was really about, it wasn't, I'm being facetious, it was not about the world literally ending. It was more that our infrastructure was not up for the challenge of this shift in century and millennia in particular, and so all of our computers would just basically either wipe themselves or freeze or crash or whatever, causing infrastructure chaos.
Yes.
Alex Jones was telling people for weeks to hoard gold, for months to hoard gold, to get ready for the end of the world. It was gonna happen, right? And even more important than that, right? He actually said that that it was happening. That Y2K was actually occurring. Okay.
Oh, after it started, after the turn of the year?
Yeah.
That was occurring, stuff was falling apart, we just weren't seeing it. The wool was being pulled over our eyes.
So he literally had a Y2K. I'm going to read this for you. This is a quote. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Cash machines are failing in Britain and now other European countries. They're finding large amounts of explosives in France. Vladimir Putin, who is known as Vladimir the Ruthless, using all his profanity on national TV, you name it. We won't read the profanity here, but we've got it. This person is on an unbelievable power trip and resembles a demon. He is a creature of the IMF and the World Bank and international communism. He is a former KGB head, and this information is vital, ladies and gentlemen. We're seeing the New World Order really come out in force. More wars than we've had in the past 50 years are going on right now. The war in Chechnya is raging in Rosny, with reports of hundreds to thousands dying. 20 to 40,000 civilians trapped in the city. Russian Hinds are being shot down, tanks are being blown to bits, massive Grad unguided rocket attacks are being launched from the city indiscriminately right now. Air and artillery bombardments as well. It's absolutely out of control. It is pandemic, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
He's such a tool. Sorry.
Now here's another one. Here's another one. Okay. That was going on. This is all during Y2K. Okay.
Yes.
I'll give you the news. Quote, I'll give you the news first on Y2K. The newest developments. A Pennsylvania nuclear power plant has been shut down. One of the main systems transferring the power from it failed, but they don't say it's not a Y2K problem. And the things happening here in Austin, Texas. The shelves are empty of water and some gas stations are running out of fuel. Here in central Texas and in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the shortwave is basically down, ladies and gentlemen. It went off right as I went on air.
And again, this is not... So Y2K came and went, and there was very, very few problems.
Yes.
For those of you who were not here to see it or remember it, or were too young to see it or remember it, or to have just chosen to forget that far back, I mean, basically, yes, there were some infrastructure fixes that occurred before this, but everyone, it's like every millennial change, right? There's the fear. There's the almost this sort of religious fervor fear of the coming, right? The second, whatever it is, the new millennial is coming. All bets are off. Dogs and cats living together in harmony, all that kind of stuff, right? Like people amp up the fear. It happened at the turn of the century. It happened then, but it wasn't the apocalypse. It wasn't and it really, like, it had some effects, but very, very few. The banks were fine, infrastructure worked out, and I just feel like I can understand why, if you were a conspiracy theorist and you were gonna hitch your wagon to something, especially for financial means, Y2K would be a good gig. But I'm also amazed that he's able to translate that information with a straight face and have nobody be like, "I live in Austin, and Circle K is totally stocked."
Right.
I just got my Monster down there, my Monster and my barbecue corn nuts. We're good. Full tank of gas. We're cool. But I think it's like, again, it's like even after the world doesn't collapse, the narrative is perpetuated, right?
Absolutely.
Until it runs out of steam, until there's something else that takes its place that is more, that drives more interest, and that can revitalize sort of the fear behind it.
Absolutely. So after the Y2K thing failed, he was really hurting. He was losing relevance. Bill Cooper took him to task on his own radio show for being a fraud, basically, because it was completely fraudulent what he did, and things weren't looking great for Alex Jones. Okay, but then two things happened. Okay.
Yeah.
The first was 9/11. 9/11, September 11th, 2001, made Alex Jones's career.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Completely.
Sickeningly enough so.
Completely made his career.
Yes.
Now, it completely brought him back into the fold. So that occurred in September of that year. And then in November of that year, Bill Cooper died. Okay. Now, Bill Cooper was kind of a piece of crap on his own. And so he was killed because he killed someone.
Oh.
He shot a cop in the head.
Oh my God.
So Bill Cooper, not a great person, right? If for more info on that, go listen. There's a really good episode about that on Last Podcast on the Left. Right? They have a really good Bill Cooper series. But the September 11th, so Alex Jones suddenly was the only, really the only hard conspiracy voice that had any kind of mainstream recognition.
Well, yeah, you have your Rush Limbaughs, right? But he's not as, I don't think he has the same. He's still a complete and total piece. Don't get me wrong, but he doesn't have the same breadth and scope. I think.
No, not at all.
Alex Jones is really willing to like New World Order it up, and Rush Limbaugh will only blame stuff on African Americans and Jews.
Yeah.
Oh, and women.
Yeah. Oh, of course, the women.
Oh, and anyone of any kind of minority. But it's not the New World Order. He hasn't gone that far.
No. So September 11th,
immigrants, all that. Yeah.
So September 11th started to see Alex Jones's star really start to rise in the conspiracy world, specifically because he talked about how the 9/11 attacks were, in his opinion, orchestrated by the New World Order and the Bush government and the Council of Foreign Relations to create forever war in the Middle East. Now, I mean, maybe one of his more accurate predictions was that we'd never get out of the Middle East, but why is, I think, up for grabs. I don't think it's necessarily that, a New World Order decided this was going to happen.
No.
He became, and so over time then, as his star started to rise, he became a more and more serious figure. To the point that in the 2016 Republican primary race, Jones was one of the main. Jones was one of the first people that Donald Trump gave an interview to.
Oh God.
Okay. I remember hearing it. I remember hearing it live and being flabbergasted that Donald Trump would go on his show.
Oh my God. Well, he went on shows quite a bit, but going back to September of the 9/11 attacks, the reason that conspiracy also is so insidious is it's like it is saying that America did that to itself, right? But then also saying that, it blames everyone in a lot of ways. It makes you paranoid and puts fear on everyone. So American and the New World Order did that to itself. New York City is to blame as well. The people that practice the Muslim faith are evil because they help perpetuate a environment that this could be done by the New World Order, right? So there's no one that is innocent except for who he says is innocent, right? So that is the most insidious thing about all of that. Is it took a truly horrific, terrible event that changed American and world history and changed kind of how we view freedom and at least within that next 10 years, and just sort of the ability to feel like you were safe. And he just used that to his own advantage for gain, which I think is especially, again, like harnessing all of that fear together is so criminal and is so it's just depraved. I mean, it's not, we'll get into some of his other stuff, but it's just like, that's really sick. All right. So 2000, sorry.
So he continued to become an important figure, and his views of the world are, I would say, mainstream now.
Yes.
As scary as that is, he's able to, him and his followers are able to tone down some of the more wacky aspects of what they believe. Right, so folks like Dinesh D'Souza, who is a big Alex Jones advisor is the wrong word, or kind of even teammate, but
accolade.
They're kind of on the same. They're sort of on the same bench, I guess. So Dinesh D'Souza, who was pardoned by Trump, right? Regardless of whether or not you believe that was fine or not, whatever. D'Souza is a known conspiracy theorist. He's a known liar. And just an all-around kind of bad person. Jones helped to propagate the Pizzagate conspiracy. He's also relatively in support of the QAnon conspiracy theory, which is making its way to the mainstream, and it's already, frankly, part of the mainstream. And in particular as well, he is part of the idea, or part of the notion, that there is the underlying current to Alex Jones's conspiracy theory worldview is a cornerstone of kind of the Donald Trump defense for himself. Again, whether or not you believe what he's doing is wrong or not, whatever, we're going to try to not be political here. But, the idea of a deep state, the idea of a government within a government, the idea of there are people working for the government who are trying to do the right thing. You have the white hats, and then you have the black hats who are trying to actively subvert and hurt the United States for their own personal gain, and for the gain of other countries who are also part of this New World Order coalition. It's a very, very dark idea, because it makes you not trust your government. Now, again, whether or not you should trust your government, I think, is an open question, right? But at the very least, I don't think you should expect that there is, one of my favorite quotes recently has been, don't ascribe to conspiracy that which can be equally well described by incompetence. Right?
Well,
it's like the overarching theme of the UFO community.
Yeah.
It's like
I think what's so hard about like deep state is like, do I think that there are people in the United States government that has an agenda that sometimes either is self-serving or goes against the American interest? Yes. Do I think that those people are organized or consistent in any respects? No. And I also I think you have to ask yourself, do I trust? So if I have someone telling me, trust these people, but don't trust these people, just intuitively, you should be asking why. Even if it's me, if it's Alex Jones, if it's whoever, it's like, what are the facts about that person that you are able to discern from your own research and education that aren't just being fed to you.
Right. And has
Because I
this
think-
and has
yeah.
this person ever purposefully lied to you? Right?
Well,
Alex Jones has a
yeah.
history of purposefully lying. That Y2K stuff
Right.
is so damning because none of
Right.
it was happening.
No. Well, I mean, and even beyond Y2K or September 11th attacks, the Sandy Hook shooting in 2000, I think it was 2012, was probably one of the most heart-wrenching, terrible acts of violence that basically killed children. A shooter who was a child himself.
Yeah.
Right. And like, there is nothing coming out of that attack besides pain and sorrow. And hopefully at that point, like, I was one of the many people out there, Americans and worldwide, that was hoping, hey, this is going to be a realistic check on something. And not only was it not a realistic check on gun control, but then people like Alex Jones, and Alex Jones in particular, advocated that this was somehow a huge false flag put together by crisis actors and the deep state because they want to take our guns away. And I think, like, again, if you let's pretend for whatever reason you have a mistrust of your government, which again, like, I can understand. From wherever you are in your world and whatever you have that you are living with on a day-to-day basis, you may trust certain things and mistrust other things. But I think, again, like, you just have to question, this was a school. This was your daughter, this was your son, this is your friends, your family, your sister, your brother, and they are gunned down in their childhood. And how terrible that event is, how that's not something that is a conspiracy. That's something that is like pretty much an open fact for what it is, and how the natural instinct should be to heal and not to exacerbate a wound.
Well,
right? And that's what I feel like he's the best at, is he will exacerbate the wounds that we should be healing.
Well, the interesting thing with the interesting thing for me always with these conspiracy theories is they're always coming from an agenda.
Yes.
And because they're coming from an agenda, there are real conspiracy theories looking us in the face.
Yes, that are true.
That are true.
True. Mm-hmm.
There is a massive problem of money in politics right now. On either side, there is money flowing into our political system in a way that hasn't been the case since Teddy Roosevelt stopped it from happening, basically, because of the unmitigated corruption scene in the 1920s, right? In the early 1900s, late 1800s, there is more money flowing. I mean, it's disgusting, the things that we're allowing our politicians on either side to get away with, and yet our big argument recently has been that that's not the conspiracy. The conspiracy is the idiots at the FBI who work there for low pay and bad hours and whatever are trying to take down, the crony capitalists. It's insanity. So, and here's the thing, right? So this is a quote from Alex Jones' show about the Sandy Hook shooting. Quote: Sandy Hook, and this is in 2015. So this is a long time after the shooting, which occurred in 2012. So so this is what he said, quote: Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake with actors, in my view, manufactured. I couldn't believe it at first. I knew they had actors there, clearly, but I thought they killed some real kids. And it just shows how bold they are, that they clearly used actors. I mean, they even ended up using photos of kids killed in mass shootings here in a fake mass shooting in Turkey. So yeah, or Pakistan. The sky is now the limit. Okay. He has since disputed that he ever said that. And in particular has come out and said, so let's lay the groundwork here. Parents of victims of Sandy Hook have been harassed by listeners of Alex Jones' show, by conspiracy theorists on the internet, whatever, and have been forced to move homes multiple times, have not been able to find residence in, safe residence, kind of, I guess, safe and sane residence, really,
Right.
where they can kind of heal their families. And they sued.
Where they could have a home.
Exactly.
You know, that's the thing that, again, is so effing insidious about this guy. Like, he's denying the fact that they had children and that their children were slaughtered.
Yeah.
And then he's propagating that they'll have no safe haven, that they'll have no home.
Yeah.
There's nowhere that these people can go, and they have done nothing.
Yeah. So he has been sued by, originally it was three
God,
parents.
I want to sue him.
It was three parents who sued him for defamation.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was, so that was April of 2018. And then in May of 2018, another 6 families joined on and sued him for these claims. Now, this is a quote from one of the lawyers.
Yeah.
Okay, quote, Jones' actions subjected the families and survivors of the Sandy Hook shooting to physical confrontations and harassment, death threats, and personal attacks on social media. Alex Jones and his co-conspirators engineered and maintained this campaign for a simple reason: greed. And that is the most important point here. As Alex Jones has built this world around him, these ideas, these other conspiracy websites, all this other stuff, he has simultaneously been using his platform as a conspiracy theorist, telling you that the world is going to end, that the economy is going to collapse, that the government's coming for your guns, etc., whatever. He has been using that platform to sell water filters, to sell supplements to ward off the effects of fluoride and chemtrails.
Yes.
He has used it to sell anal wipes to sell tactical gear for military engagements. They sell bulletproof vests. They sold bump stocks for quite some time on his show. They sell gold. They sell silver. They sold meal prep kits. They sell everything the budding militiaman needs to start an insurrection against the United States. Besides the guns themselves, even though they do actually advertise guns as well on his show, Alex Jones sells on his website. It is ridiculous. It is disgusting. It is greedy. It is slimy. He's a sleazy piece of crap.
Yes, he is.
But Marie, is he entitled to say those things on social media? So the reason you have probably heard, listeners of Alex Jones, recently is because he has been kicked off of many social media platforms relatively recently. Okay, he was removed from. So this was August of 2018. Facebook, Apple, YouTube, and Spotify removed all content by Alex Jones and Infowars. Okay, he then had some other accounts removed from Pinterest, MailChimp, LinkedIn, which I don't even understand the LinkedIn thing. I don't get
MailChimp.
that. MailChimp makes sense. He's got to send out his mailers and stuff for his supplements.
Oh,
but the LinkedIn thing to me is just like, what are you talking about? They still have an Instagram page and a Twitter page. But he was removed from social media, and the fringe, I guess I would call it fringe Facebook, fringe social media, fringe internet went up in arms. They were frothing at the mouth, oh my God, first they came for Alex Jones and I said nothing, and then they're going to come for me. All this stuff. I don't buy it. I don't understand. Have you ever accidentally told all of your listeners that the world was going to end and they needed to start buying gold from you? If you haven't, you're in the clear. Have you ever caused a family to have to move because you were so certain that they were a UFO, or not a UFO, but an alien, a reptile, that they were a government shill, that they were etc. It's no, you've never done that stuff because you're not a terrible, horrible con man in person. So you have nothing to worry about.
Oh my god. Sorry, giggling. And I don't think so. Again, if you want to argue First Amendment, it's not First Amendment. One, because he's not being censored by the government, although his followers would argue that that this is ultimately what this is. He's saying that, you know, private industries like Facebook are publicly traded, but corporations are saying we're not going to supply you with the platform to do this.
Right.
There's a difference. They're not saying we are not going to let you say it. We're going to physically imprison you. We're going to make this illegal in a law. They're saying we're no longer giving you a platform for hate speech, which is different.
Now, I think...
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think the argument that people would make against that, and I think this kind of comes from a place of... So, I'm being a little facetious. This argument is more complicated, and it should not matter. It should not matter ultimately what Alex Jones says, in my opinion. Right? If he... It's the First Amendment. I think it does matter in some ways. That Y2K thing, I think you can make a very strong case that if he had incited violence, and that's one of the big parts about this Sandy Hook thing, is he has led to violence. He led to the guy at the Comet ping pong thing, going there with a gun.
Oh, yeah.
He has led to the propagation, I think, of the militia mindset and issues like with the Cliven Bundys and all those folks. So I think there's a not insignificant amount of evidence that what he does promote violence in some ways.
Yes.
It's never as overt as you need to go kill, you know, whatever, Senator Billy Boar or whatever. But Senator Billy Boar, of course, being one of my stuffed animals, Marie. But
Senator Billy Boar is one of your stuffed animals?
Senator Billy Boar, he's got a great platform. He's got a 100-point plan. It's gonna work great. But
dude, you know what? One of my daughter's stuffed animals, Bunny, is an economist.
Right, you told me that's an awesome thing.
Bun Bun's an economist.
We should have him on for our next episode.
Dude, I solicited Bun Bun's advice for this and actually had to get out my checkbook because Bun doesn't work for free.
No, he's an economist. Bun is an economist. Doesn't work for free.
Yeah. Anyways,
what matters is... So, okay, we can kind of sidestep, I think, that incitement to violence thing, because he never is explicit in the violence. Okay.
Debatable. I think that's debatable.
It is debatable.
He has told his people to pick up arms and to fight the Intifada and to fight the ba-ba-ba. So I think if you are calling to arms, that's not a... You could argue, well, that's rhetoric. That's what am I thinking of? That's
performance art.
Well, no, because that's
what his lawyers have argued. Yeah,
which is just
hilarious.
It's not a reference, or it's not like an
allusion. It's not a direct.
Right. He's saying that that's when you're saying a call to arms, and this is what this is. You're not telling people to wake up and to protest. You're telling them to shoot someone. A call to arms is just that, in my opinion, especially when your stock and trade on your website is weaponry.
Yeah, and I think
it's not like he's a tie-dye and he sells, you know, hemp and candles and he's all like, call to arms, my people. No. It's military. It is clearly there's clearly a causation there. It's not just correlative. He's causing that.
Yeah.
I still say he's not covered by First Amendment, man. This isn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right. No,
argue against.
And so that's the crux of one of these arguments is these are public corporations. They're public corporations, but they are not public corporations. Why do I keep saying that? They are private corporations.
Publicly traded private
corporations, and as such, they do not have to abide by First Amendment protections because it's not the government that is censoring you. If Alex Jones still broadcasts from his basement, or
Right.
not even his basement. He broadcasts from his studio. He has a real studio, right?
Yeah.
Calling it a
Oh, yeah,
basement is
nice
belittling
studio.
to what he actually has built.
He has an empire. He has a corporation that he is broadcasting from.
He does, absolutely. And so it's not as if if you wanted my Alex Jones podcast feed didn't stop because Facebook decided not to have him on anymore.
Right.
I none of that stuff stopped. So his content is still getting out there. So
Yes.
it is not that he is being censored. He is just being, it's like your local, if you have a kid's bookstore that doesn't want to sell pornography or doesn't want to sell violent video games or something else or whatever, that's not censorship. That's them knowing their market.
Well,
And it's the same thing here, I think, in many ways. That's the argument that I think people would make for.
well, Congress is not abridging his freedom of speech,
No.
right? Nobody is passing a law. No one is sending in federal or state officers or soldiers or militia to get him in his citadel, in his fortress, to shut him up and
No.
throw him in a jail.
But
So he is very well, he out of everyone, out of all Americans, he is very much a benefactor of First Amendment rights.
he is.
And to save it any of these corporations that decided that it's not their platform to carry him, to even say that that's a violation of it, is ill-informed,
Now,
in my opinion.
here's a counter argument to that, though, that I do think holds some weight. Is Facebook and Twitter and are these social media platforms, though, not the equivalent? Should they be considered public utilities?
Well,
Is Facebook is become the internet generally, and social media in particular, has become so ubiquitous that I think many people would like to argue, and some people hypocritically in this situation would like to argue, that it is a public utility. And so you cannot limit people's access to the internet. You cannot limit what content people can find on the internet outside of illegal activity like child pornography and drugs and whatever.
maybe they should make this argument to the FCC.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I would say, of course not. Of course the internet should not be regulated by the government. And it wasn't regulated by the government until
net neutrality.
the most recent administration came in and decided we are going to do away with net neutrality.
Right.
So it had nothing to do with Alex Jones. In fact, it was Alex Jones' good buddy who's in office who decided to do that himself.
So it is, I think that argument does in some cases come from a little bit of a place of hypocrisy when it comes from people that also were fine with net neutrality being repealed. But at the same time, though, I think it's a good argument. I mean, if Alex, no, it's fine. But I think again, though, the way that someone,
Do you like my debate skills? My debate skills
I do.
are this.
Meh.
Meh.
Well, yeah, meh.
Full rebut. Meh. Sorry, keep going.
touche, Marie.
Oh, Meh.
The argument for one argument, though, that I think kind of destroys that, besides the one that you just made, totally right, is imagine you have a national park, right? You have a national park. If you wanted to go to a national park and play Alex Jones over a boombox, would that be considered, if a park ranger came and said, "Don't do that here"? Would that be considered a violation of your free speech?
If the decibels of which I was playing it was inflicting or bothering other people, then that's a separate argument. No, if you're out fishing and you have a radio on and it's Alex Jones, he should be able to play Alex Jones.
Okay. What if Alex Jones decided to start broadcasting on National Public Radio?
On National Public Radio.
Or what if he decided to buy a
he
PBS
won't, 'cause
station?
There's no money. there's no money in it, first of all, because
No,
then
but
he'd have to go against everything he's saying. So I get your argument, but your argument would never happen because then he would be
Sure.
in bed with the government.
So I guess
He'd be
I guess
taking
we're,
money from the government, right?
I guess yeah, he would be. Which I mean, I think he does anyway. So who cares? But what
He does?
Well,
Does he really?
I'm sure he does at some point or has or whatever. I'm sure it's like the draining or what's that phrase?
Drain the swamp?
Not drain the swamp.
Oh,
Bleed the dragon. Right.
I don't.
A lot of
I don't
militia
know
groups
that
do that. What bleeding the dragon is a lot of separatist movements in the United States have done this
Uh-huh.
over time. The idea is that the federal government is evil, and welfare programs in particular are evil. So what you will do is you will apply for welfare fraudulently and take money from the government in order to bleed it.
And then burn it.
No. You use it. You just
Oh.
think you just figure you're like if other people are going to do it illegally because that's their idea that other people are doing it illegally that they're going to do it illegally
Nice.
too and basically bleed the government dry in some way.
So isn't that just the same as taking their money?
100%. Oh, they are taking their money. That's the whole thing. Whatever. We're off track now here.
Sorry.
What if
I know
what
what
if
you're saying, but they should burn it if they really have an issue with the government giving out money to people who do not deserve it. Then they should burn the money. They should
Well, yeah.
take it and burn it as protest, but not use it.
what if
Blood money.
so what if Alex Jones what if say I decide then to start putting Alex Jones on my Facebook page?
Well, you could do that. That's your. I was going to say your First Amendment, but it's not. I mean, that is your prerogative, and I'm certain that there are other people out there that do that. But
See, but I bet Facebook is actively censoring those people. Because
think?
because
Could be.
just like they do with, again just like they do with pornography, right? I mean,
there's nothing stopping you from going out and talking to your friends about Alex Jones, or putting up flyers for Alex Jones, or doing a
Yeah.
Alex Jones based puppet musical in your local theater. There's
Absolutely.
absolutely nothing stopping that, and I would buy tickets for that.
yeah, I would
By the
too.
way.
No, 100%. My
my
puppets
God,
aren't nearly ready.
Oh my God, could we do that? Could we have some sort of Alex Jones the musical?
All right, I think we could. I think we've pretty much so Alex Jones. Alex Jones. It's an unknown issue right now how this will play out ultimately. But what I would say is it's one of those arguments, right? It's for me it always kind of comes down to that same argument with censorship where it's I don't know pornography is that thing which I can't describe it but I know it when I see it.
Which is
Right.
the description of something that is not pornography, but it is what's the other word? Dang it, I'm need more coffee.
It's okay. It's so for me that's the same argument here with Alex Jones is he might have never said on the air, and I actually think this is probably debatable, but he might not have ever said on the air, we need to take up arms against this corrupt government. Pretty sure I have heard him say that personally, but whatever, it's fine. I don't have a source for that at the moment. But if you listen to a week's worth of content of Alex Jones, you're gonna know it when you hear it. You're gonna know that it's inciting violence. You're gonna know that it's
Yeah,
inappropriate.
making frogs gay. I mean, wasn't that his?
It was his. You can listen and if you're a sensible person, I think if you're listening to it too, you're gonna realize that it's all a big con.
Yes.
He's selling. It's the perfect. Again, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the perfect TV show for our time because it perfectly encapsulates so many of these things. So there's an episode where Frank decides that he's gonna start selling. He buys stock in a gun, not a gun company. He basically buys a gun shop. And he then goes out on the news and he's like, I got mugged by these two guys. I think they wanted to rape me. They were coming to hit me or whatever. And, I had two guns that I used and I bought them from Gunther's Guns. So you and everyone have got to get down to Gunther's Guns to buy some guns to protect you and your family because this might happen to you.
Right.
And then the gang, right, Charlie, Mac,
Right.
Dennis, and Dee, get into this big argument with each other about is the Second Amendment fine, where's the line, etc. It's easy to buy guns, not easy to buy guns, whatever. And at the end of the episode, they all go back to Frank and they're like, Frank, we got to get down to this gun rally. We're all on your side now. And Frank's like, gun? That rally? No way. There'll be a bunch of gun nuts there with machine guns. I'm not going. That's unsafe. I'm not going down there. And he's at the moment, he's unloading water filters from a truck.
Right.
And he's, and they're like, what are you talking about? I thought you cared about guns. What's with the water filter? He goes, no. He goes, I made a lot of money. He's like, I bought stock in Gunther's guns and I just made a crap load of money off of this thing. And now I'm going to go on the news and tell them that there's, chemicals in the water. He's like, I think the way he mentions it, he goes, in this world, there's dupers and there's dupees. I'm a duper and you're the dupees. Right? And it ends with them now being like, I can't believe it. He's got a good point. The water is dirty. Got to get some of those filters. Alex Jones is a duper. And and if you listen to his show, you're going to come away from it thinking like, maybe I should buy some gold. I have been feeling like I have low testosterone. I better take some super male enhancement pills.
Bumper stock and some wipes.
Absolutely, 100%. So, I think the argument that he is, and actually that's the part of this where I think is the most fascinating or the most interesting is, if I was Facebook or Twitter or not Twitter didn't take him off. Mm-hmm. If I was Facebook or Tumblr or any of these other, I doubt he had a Tumblr, but if I was any of these sites, my argument wouldn't be that Alex Jones is inciting violence. It's that Alex Jones is misrepresenting his claims and thereby fraudulently tricking people into buying items. Basically, my argument would be that he is engaged in fraud. He is engaged in a massive fraud, and so therefore we are not going to allow him to sell and advertise his products on our websites because it has been proven to us that his products are fraudulent, that his claims backing those products are fraudulent. That's where I would make this argument, and I think that's
a much better argument. Hey, that's a good question. Is he affiliated with or any of his fabulous like Prison Planet? Is it publicly traded?
No, it's owned it's privately held. It's owned by him, and I'm sure Paul Joseph Watson gets a cut of that as well. Who, by the way, if you're on the internet and you see Paul Joseph Watson, he's very popular amongst conservative Twitter. He is Alex Jones's proxy, basically, so don't be fooled. But yeah, I don't know actually. I don't think it's.
I'd love to see their tax returns. Wouldn't you love to? I would love to see their financial information because they are not doing poorly for themselves.
No, they make a tremendous amount of money. So that's it on Alex Jones today, and we're gonna jump into economic collapse. So get ready.